So, welcome back to my channel. This is the Mama Rick channel, and of course, today we have a very special guest. A guest that has been creating some amazing wearables in Decentraland. And you all know I've talked about Decentraland quite a lot. And in my previous video, the last video I made, it was one of the most bullish. If you look at in-game economics, the tokenomics itself, the tokens attached to that metaverse, are one of the ones I'm extremely bullish about. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The person we have here today has been one of the top sellers in that platform, in that metaverse, in terms of selling wearables, and they've also been extremely creative in the way they design their wearables and their artistic process. So that is Nikki Fuego. I've done a video about them in the past, and I'm very excited to actually have Nikki on my show today to talk about their exciting journey in the metaverse. Despite the current conditions, it's very exciting to see that people are still building out there. So, welcome to the show, Nikki.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody watching. I appreciate the love, and I'm excited to talk today.
Awesome. So, where should I start? Nikki, could you introduce yourself to the people in full, sort of give us a background of who you are, where you come from?
Sure. So I am located in the United States,
Okay.
and I have been in crypto a very short time, actually. So I got into crypto last year during the whole Doge hype that was going on when Dogecoin was moving.
Elon Musk time.
I say mooning, it didn't even hit $1, but you know what I mean.
You almost got there, but it didn't
journey.
make it. Okay.
No, I learned a lot, though. I learned a lot about crypto and exactly how it works. And I'm sorry if you hear squeaking in the background. It's my puppy.
No, that's all right.
But like I said, I joined Decentraland not too long ago. It was in November when I first logged in. And I had never really been into 3D modeling. I did, for like a year and a half before that, I did some like minor modeling when it came to like 3D printing because I have a 3D printer.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't really ever make my models. I kind of like just downloaded them and personalized them to me and then printed them. And it was mostly just to learn how to 3D print. And then when I joined Decentraland, I saw that other people were having like customizing their characters with different wearables. I didn't know they were called wearables at the time.
Right.
And I'm really into fashion. I've always been into fashion my whole life. And so it really struck a chord with me. I was like, wow, you can really make anything on this platform. And then I started getting acquainted with some of the people, some of the OGs, if you will, that were there, and just kind of learning the ropes. And here we are 8 months later, and I've put out 12 wearables and making a play to earn game.
Wow.
It's been a wild ride.
Wow. So in a span of like, you mentioned November, is that of 2021, just to make it clear?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. November 2021. See, it's my whole life has changed in the last 8 months.
Oh wow. Well, congratulations. To those that are wondering why I probably just I'm surprised by this, is because it's extremely hard to gain any level of success when you're dealing with trading or creating things and trading these things on the internet. So being able to come into this space the way you did, it must have taken a lot of passion to be, especially if you mentioned that you were not doing 3D design prior to this.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you get into this NFT thing, crypto, to understand crypto and then understand NFTs and then understand that you can apply your artistic prowess to this and then create some sort of business out of it, some sort of success, and also enjoying the process. That is amazing. It's really hard to do, but it sounds like fun. I mean, there's a lot that can be packaged in what you said.
It's been a wild ride, girl.
Right, exactly.
And it's crazy because I feel like I've been training my whole life for this because I've kind of been like an entrepreneurial and like kind of done my own thing since I was 18.
Right.
And I'm 29 now, so I've had years of trying to figure it out and figure out exactly what my thing is. And it's always been art that's made me happy.
Right.
But I never dreamed that I'd be able to make fashion pieces, share a stage with Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all those people.
I know, it's amazing.
And then also like have a game that I'm making. Like what? My 10-year-old self right now is screaming.
Wow, I know. Oh man. That's crazy. So people that are listening. So basically, Nikki came into this whole crypto space, started creating these things called NFTs. But with a metaverse like Decentraland, these NFTs actually have a functionality where you can actually put them on, so you can change them. You can create tops, bottoms, or even skins, a whole layered skin. So one time I was making my random ventures through Decentraland, and I see it was an event. So I saw a character wearing one of your skins. Which one? I think it's the Fuego Machina. I saw a character wear that skin, and for the first, I had been in Decentraland like 1.5 years prior to seeing that, and I was like, wow, I've never seen something like that in Decentraland. I have to get my hands on it. And that's how essentially I was introduced to the artist of Nikki Fuego. So if it's not just a gimmick or whatever. I'm actually truly impressed with your artistic skills. But could you tell us a little bit? How did you find out? How did you stumble upon Decentraland? I mean, you said you found about it through, I mean, crypto through Dogecoin and so on. But how did you know that this is something you could do to make such a twist in your thought process?
It was kind of a happy accident
Mm-hmm.
because like I said, I wasn't really familiar with crypto. My own experience was Doge.
Right.
But I think because I was getting involved with the crypto community in social media,
Mm-hmm.
my feed started to change to more crypto oriented things.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally just saw a Twitter ad from that was about the metaverses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was actually specifically a Sandbox advertisement that I saw.
Okay.
And so I checked out Sandbox first, and it was really, I don't know how gated it is now, but it was very gated back in November with like a $500 or $600 entry fee to play the full game. And
Yes.
I was not about to enter
Right.
a very first metaverse paying $600. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go find out what other metaverses there are. And when I searched on Google,
Mm-hmm.
Decentraland was like one of the first ones to come up.
Mm-hmm.
And I logged in immediately as a guest. I didn't even know what a MetaMask was at that point still.
Wow.
And so I just logged in and I started walking around, and literally here we are now. I never stopped.
Wow. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Nikki, do you mind talking about your design process? What inspires your particular design process? How did you figure out this?
Yeah.
Could you also talk about some of the softwares you use? Maybe some people that admire your work might want to learn that, because the way you wrap your designs, could you talk about that? How are you able to embed those designs
sure.
with those limited polygons? You don't have so much textures to go by in Decentraland. How are you able to pull that off? Maybe some people might.
So
be
that was
interested.
one of the
Hmm.
that was one of the first challenges that I ever encountered. Was one of the first things I made was a hat. And at the time, it was kind of questionable and debatable if you could have a hat at 500 tries,
Right.
which is 500 polygons.
Right.
And for people who don't know what polygons means, it's basically the shapes that make up the surface of your model.
Right.
And so you're limited by that, and essentially, and per category, it's different. And so I had to learn very quickly how to make something in high poly, which is like with a lot of polys,
Right.
and redo it basically in a lower poly style.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it was really challenging, but now I feel like it kind of elevated my art a little bit, because it just pushed me outside of my comfort zone and challenged me and allowed me to be able to learn something that I'm able to do that I didn't think I was going to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of take every project with the approach of like, literally, if I could make any real life outfit to wear on the runway, what would it be? And usually that's what kind of inspires most of my designs. Specifically, what I start with is I just start sketching on my iPad with Procreate,
Okay.
different silhouettes, different shapes that I want to capture, different emotions that I want to have in that. And then I take that and I go into Blender and I just start kind of building from a cube or building from a cylinder. And Blender's a free 3D software which
Right.
you can download and use.
Mhm.
It's like one of the most powerful ones I've ever used.
Right. That's true.
But I just go in there and I start from a cube or cylinder or something basic and just start extruding edges and kind of building out this whole block of what I want, and then kind of just going in there and fine tuning it from there. And because textures are so limited, like you can only have 2 textures and they can only be 512 by 512. And so that's really limiting when it comes to like quality of what a texture can look like and what it can feel like.
Mhm.
And so one way is around that is to use a product like Adobe Substance,
Wow.
which is part of the Adobe Creative Suite. And the reason that one's powerful is because you can pack as many different types of textures onto one texture plane so that you're only using one texture but really using like 30 other different patterns or colors or whatever. And it's because you can go in there and actually paint polygon by polygon, or like with a brush you can just brush stroke wherever you want things to be. You could literally paint it how exactly you envision it. And you can bake it, which basically means that you're saving all of that artistic data in a lower format against the files, because there's also a file size limitation. And that's how you get like the more realistic, like with the Fuego machine, is the way that we were able to, my buddy Ronan, who is basically, his Twitter is Slide on Clay. He's been my mentor in this space since I started. He's taught me all of the techniques that I know now.
You had a bit of a that's extremely important, because sorry to cut you off, Nikki, but
absolutely, no, yeah.
Anyone that has some sort of success in any field, you at some level you have to have some kind of mentor. So it's very nice that you actually mentioned that.
Yeah, it's so crucial, because all it takes is you just asking a question.
Right.
And that's all it took for me to meet Ronan, was just to ask a question. And then now we have a thriving relationship, and he's, like I said, he's taught me everything that I know now. And now I find myself like learning beyond him, which is incredible. And I'm super thankful for him. And he's the one that modeled the Fuego machines, and then I textured them. And he taught me like how to texture in a like completely new way. That was one of the first times I used Substance for 3D. I've used Substance for 2D before, but never for 3D. And so once he taught me how to like get those iron patches, or like the material, like the threadings and stuff like that, to be baked in there without taking up any more polygons or tries, I was blown away. And that's kind of what unlocked everything for me, and what led to Fashion Week being such a success.
Oh yeah, Fashion Week. Oh wow. Okay, so this is a lot to unpack. So could you first mention what is Fashion Week? I mean, first of all, big ups to your mentor, and big ups to you being able to actually keep up with all the pressures that come with learning a new skill, learning crypto, and learning all these things. But before we get into, guys, remember, you took that skill to then create something called a play to earn within this same metaverse, which means you want to bring your characters, your designs to life. And I'm sure the people can't wait to hear about something to do with that, which is you're creating this thing called Vroomway. But how do you move from learning how to create these things, embedding these designs as you've talked about, to then having that vision of turning this into a play to earn? What inspired that?
So it's funny, because before Fashion Week, one of my biggest, I wouldn't say that it's my most successful wearable in marks of sales, but it's definitely the wearable that marked me as a creator and concreted me into the community, was the Vroom Vrooms, the original model.
Really? It wasn't even the Fuego Machina. That's the one I saw
first. No, the Fuego
first.
Machina was just that was the highest sales and one of the quickest sellouts I've had.
Wow.
And
not
so
surprising
with the
at all.
Vroom Vrooms, with the Vroom Vrooms, the reason they were so such a staple is because vehicles weren't really a thing. There were a few mounts, like the water
I've
tiger
always
mount.
wanted a vehicle in Decentraland, and yours was the first vehicle I ever bought, and I was so excited about that. Anyways.
And so I saw Low Poly Store. They're a prominent creator in the space too, and they're actually the one that provided YouTube videos of how to make wearables that got me started even on this journey to even get to where I'm at.
Nice.
And so they created like a water tiger mount, and it's basically this mount that's weighted to the legs to where it literally looks like it's a tiger walking, and it's so cool. And I am, in any video game I've ever played, like World of Warcraft or anything, I am a mount whore, okay? I collect mounts, like mounts are my favorite thing.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, so they did a water tiger mount, then game on, I'm going to make the first car, because there hadn't been a car in Decentraland.
Is that the guy that shows the tiger, the twerking tiger video? I've seen it around.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's an awesome mount. Okay. Nice. That's why he's nice. Okay.
So I noticed that there wasn't any car on the marketplace whatsoever, not even a hover car.
No.
And I was like, oh my God, this is such a missed opportunity. I'm totally going to do this.
Right.
And so when I did it, it rose a lot of flags and caused a lot of controversy, because it was a wearable, not a vehicle. And so people want, like, if it's a vehicle, they want it to be a vehicle, but it also was kind of breaking a lot of unknown wearable curation rules.
Right.
So they're very specific with skins specifically of encompassing the basic avatar shape. So they want it to have a head, legs, and feet,
Right.
and they want it to be they want to be able to visually see that you have hands moving and stuff like that. And so that's why I was only able to get away with the original Vroom Vrooms and the Model O's, is because
Right.
it was during that whole huge debate that was going on. And so when they finally come to a decision that they were like, hey, we like your vehicles, but we can't approve them as wearables anymore, just because it kind of got out of hand. There was like 10 or 15 vehicles that were starting to get submitted by other people. There was hover bikes, there was rockets, there was all kinds of things that were kind of mimicking that.
Right.
And so they kind of had to put a hold on it and be like, stop, we can't do this. And so I was like, okay, well, there's so many people that wanted the Vroom Vrooms, and there's so many people. The reason the Vroom Vroom stopped selling is because of that ban. And so I was like, okay, well, there's definitely a demand here, but like, what's a way that we can go into this without doing wearables? And so after talking back and forth with some of the curator OGs and some people on the DCL staff, I came to a conclusion that I was like, the only way that I'm going to get this through is if I use SDK, which is the coding language for Decentraland. And that's how Vroomway was birthed.
But then you're going into programming. How did you get into coding? How's your mind working, Nikki? Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm a little bit of a psychopath. I know. So for the past like 3 years or so, I've actually been trying to develop my own rhythm game that I've wanted to release for ever since I played DDR as a kid.
Right.
I always wanted to recreate a new one, but I wanted it to be centered around drag queens and drag kings.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yep. And so it's basically a LGBT version of DDR. Okay. And we actually kind of named it after DDR and called it Drag Dance Revelation.
Okay, that's amazing.
And so it's kind of like that, it's kind of giving that shine on LGBT artists and drag queens specifically.
Okay.
And so I learned a little bit of C# in the past couple of years, just a little bit, like just enough to make things move in certain ways. And so when I saw SDK, I was like, it's not the same, but it's similar. So I just hit up the repository that DCL offers. It's a public forum that has all of the code for like basic functions to use in Decentraland.
Right.
And I just kind of started from there and trying to see what was possible, what wasn't possible, talking to other developers in the space, trying to get to know more about it, figuring out where to start. And I just did it. Like I'm a big proponent in not worrying about failing, because if you're failing, that means you're learning. So I'm really keen to try anything once.
That's amazing.
And so far it's worked.
You tried all these new skills and you actually managed to pull something off. I mean, you're designing essentially the first. Nikki, you put in a proposal. There's something you haven't even talked about, which speaks to your humility, I should say. You put in a proposal after doing all these things to raise up to 60,000. I know the market conditions can get a bit, the current market, but to raise some money in order to help you develop this play to earn game that you're talking about, Decentraland. You managed to actually successfully to get 2 million votes. I think that was the minimum requirement. So guys, for those that are hearing, it's literally impossible to get that. So to be able to draw that kind of attention, it's not anyone can do that. So not many people have done that. So, and on top of that, not only did you manage to get that done, you were able to actually come through. It's voted as one of the successful proposals out there. Congratulations on that, Nikki.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was really hard because it was that whole 2-week voting process, girl. I was probably DMing hundreds of people.
Right.
In
I saw that.
Just trying to figure out, hey, do you want this to happen? How much VP do you have? You know what? I don't care if you have 1 VP or 1 million VP. I want you to vote. And so my whole idea was to get yeses and not really focus on the VP. And I think that really worked out well for me, because I was able to get literally majority of the votes came from like straight community. Because when you're talking about DAOs and stuff like that, there's kind of a hierarchy when it comes to voting power.
Yes.
There's like those whales, then there's like sharks, and then there's like a bunch of us minnows.
Yes.
And so I didn't really try to focus on getting any whales at all. I just tried to focus on getting as many minnows and sharks. And so we didn't have one vote that was over 500K. Everything else, we had like one vote that was 500K, a few 100Ks, and the rest was below that. So it really shows that the community wanted this to happen. And I think that's what sticks out to me the most.
Yeah, so most of the people that voted were actually not a bunch of whales that put this proposal through, but a lot of people whose votes collectively managed to help take it to that point. That's amazing.
Yeah, we had 173 yes votes, which is
Yeah.
really, really good for a first proposal, and
Right.
especially a proposal of this size, because it's really hard to go and ask. Like, I'm already really bad about asking for help in general, like
Mm-hmm.
just as a general basis. And
Mm-hmm.
so going to a DAO
Mm-hmm.
that I'm super new in, like I when I started the proposal process, I was on month 6 or 5 or 6 of being
Mm-hmm.
in the space, so not long. And so I definitely met a lot of resistance, and I definitely got a lot of, I don't want to say hate because I don't like spreading hate, but there was a lot of discouraging messages that came from that. And I think it's just because I was new and because I was asking for quite a lot of money. I mean, 60 grand is a lot of money to ask from a DAO
Right.
for something that's never been done before. And especially
Yes.
from somebody, not only is it something that has been done before, but it's being done from somebody who hasn't done any of those things before.
Right.
So
Was that even?
that's why I really tried to build a team around me, because I was like,
Mhm.
I can't do this alone. Like, there's
No.
no way I can do this alone.
But having the ability to build a team in the first place as well, that's another thing that's not easy to do. Getting a bunch of people
Yeah.
to be willing to work with you, that's also something
Yeah.
uh, quite something to celebrate as well. That's nice. That's really, really nice. Nikki, is there something you might want to add as a final word of where you want to go? What are your plans for Vroomway? Because that seems to be the next major step in your progression of this creation of wearables. First of all, you innovated how wearables look like, because I'd been in Decentraland, I looked at Dapcraft, some of the biggest sellers and others, but when I saw yours instantly, I was blown away by how innovative you were. And then you've just spoken to how you were innovative with creating the skins, the vehicles of the skins. So going past that barrier to where you've reached right now, what are your future plans? Where do you see Vroomway, for example, by the end of this year?
Yeah. So we actually just posted our first official update. For those of you who didn't see, you can see it on our Twitter. And we basically are ahead of schedule, and like everything's kind of clicking and coming together. So by the end of the year, I see us being, pretty competitive with the other play to earns. I mean, the other play to earns have been here a lot longer than we have, and so they have a lot bigger communities. They have a lot bigger support. But I really feel like with the anticipation and the hype and the love that everybody is showing Dreamway, I really feel like we could be a pretty good contender for
Hmm.
not even being a competitive play to earn, but also onboarding new members to Decentraland. Because
Wow.
I think one thing that we're doing a little bit different is we're putting a little bit more creative money into our marketing and into how we're going to get people to the game. And
Hmm.
then not only that, but like also being strategic with what kind of code we're integrating. Because a lot of play to earns try to do everything all at once, and then it just like doesn't work.
Right.
And so we
I've
just
been
want to
there.
put things in that make sense and that you don't need every single piece of code that's in the repository. You
Right.
only need what you need to function the game. And so I feel like with us focusing on that and focusing on the player experience while also creating this huge place for people to interact with on multiple different scales, I think it's going to be really fun. And I think we have a lot of uniques and a lot of mythics that are planned for partnerships. We have a
Yes.
lot of other play to earn games that we're partnered with. The foundation
Oh.
has reached out. The
Hmm.
the DAO committee has reached out. So we're receiving a lot of love from people. And one of the biggest things that happened to us when the proposal passed that kind of like threw me on the floor was we had a budgeted 16 or $1,500 a month, and our out of that 60,000. So you're talking more than 10% of that budget was going towards land renting. And not only was it going to land renting, but we were starting with a parcel of 2x2 or an estate by 2x2, which is 4 parcels.
Hmm.
And that's really like, it's big, but it's not big when you're talking about a play to earn game. It's like
Hmm.
actually really tiny.
Hmm.
And so we were going to work our way up from 2x2 to 4x4, which is 16 parcels. But then that was going to cost more outside of the budget. So it was just going to take 6 months just to get there. But once the proposal passed, we actually had somebody in my network reach out and offer the full 16 parcels for free
Wow.
for a year.
Wow.
And then like we'll work out something after that. But it was crazy to me that somebody believed in this so much to give up that much equity. I mean,
To give us
land
16
is
persons.
equity right now.
Yes, land is equity
Six,
in Decentraland. Yeah.
and right now the floor for land is like, I don't know what it is right now because everything's crashing. But
Yeah.
before the crash, land was like 15 grand
It was like
for one
15 grand
parcel.
and some. Yeah. Hmm.
So we're talking 16 of those. That's a lot of freaking money that
Right.
somebody's just like letting me have. And so that just spoke volumes to their belief and vision in it as well. And so now we're able to make it 10 times better than our proposal even says, which
Mm-hmm.
is always better.
Wow. Wow.
So there's a lot to look forward to. And I would say for anybody who's listening and like who might think that they want to do something like this or may not know that they could do something like this, if you just want to do it, just do it. Because you
Right.
never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what you're going to learn. And even if all this crypto space stuff goes away, I've learned skills and things that I can take with me anywhere.
Right.
And that's more valuable than anything.
That's the thing. That's the thing. It's what you learn. What's the things you do was when you want to get to your destination. It's the journey, not really the
Yep.
destination, rather. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. Amazing.
If it's possible for me, it's possible for anybody, girl.
Right. I know. That's amazing words. Those are amazing words to hear. So for those that are hearing, in case you're confused, there's a metaverse, this idea of a metaverse that has started up, and through cryptocurrencies, real economies in a way are developing through this whole metaverse thing, and then applying concepts like decentralization. So people like Nikki Fuego have been able to jump into this space and then capitalize on these things called wearables and be able to create some amazing stuff, and as well as be able to combine concepts like play to earn that leverage these new concepts that we're learning about, like decentralized autonomous organizations, decentralized exchanges, transactions, and being able to interact with the blockchains in all multiple kinds of ways. And these are some of the exciting use cases that we're seeing. We're seeing blockchain technology being used at its core for this exciting stuff like creating metaverses and wearables. And Nikki is one of the people that's at the forefront of this new digital revolution. So Nikki, it has been amazing to have you on the show. I'm sure people have learned a lot from basically hearing your journey of where you came from, getting into crypto through Dogecoin awareness and getting into wearables and taking it beyond that into creating something that a lot of people have actually failed to figure out, the play to earn concept. So to organize yourself and prepare yourself to create a new sort of play to earn concept within this decentraland metaverse hasn't been something easy to do, and I must say congratulations for that. So before we conclude this, maybe you can give our listeners a final word.
Yeah, for sure. And I really appreciate the love and the support. You've been awesome. You've been a great advocate for me and Roomway. So I really appreciate all you do. And I appreciate the education that you do because it's really important for people who aren't familiar with this stuff
That's true.
to understand it. And one of the things that I want to leave people with about the metaverse that I love so, so much is if you just think back to when you were a kid and you played your favorite video game and you were like, well, what if the road turned here? Or what if there was like
Yes.
lava pouring from here? Like you
Yes.
envision all the different ways
You don't want
that
to
you
just
would
bump
make
into
that
a
game.
wall. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And you could literally do whatever you want with the metaverse. Like you can take those ideas that you had and now actually make it a reality, and not even just something that you can turn around and see on a screen in a window, but something you can be fully immersed in and actually walk around and interact with. It really makes it to where you can create literally whatever you want and whatever experience you want. And I would just say again, if you're wanting to do it, just do it. And if you're scared, step into that fear and embrace that fear because it's only going to make you stronger and a better creative.
Wow. There you go. There you go. I think I can't top that. Thank you so much, Nikki. Thank you so much. And that's the inspiration that people needed. So there you go, people. You've heard from Nikki Fuego. Wherever she came from, made it all the way to the top, and also taking it beyond that to create something that will help not only herself but also be at the digital forefront. Should I say that at the digital forefront of where we're heading in this metaverse space. Thank you, Nikki, for actually accepting to be on my show today. It was really, really awesome to talking to you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Okay, I think that was pretty good. Is there anything that you might want to add, or do you think that was a perfect ending to that one? Maybe there's something that you might have wanted to add. To add there.
I think something maybe just a little bit extra for people to know is like you don't have to have a lot of money to start this journey. I think if people look at crypto and think that, oh, I can't afford it because of gas fees or because of things are like 2 and 3 ETH or things like that. Like people, that's what kept me from crypto for so long too.
Right, because
But really,
you thought
like
the barrier to entry was
it don't.
large.
Yeah, and with Decentraland, making a wearable right now is less than $100.
Right.
And you're talking about putting something up for less than $100 and then probably making. I mean, realistically, you could make 2 to 3 grand from that. You don't do that every time, but strategically, and like there's been collections that I've published that I've done that. I paid very little and got 10x return, something stupid.
Oh,
And
nice.
so
So,
it just
Nikki,
goes to show that, like,
could you actually could we backtrack a little bit? Could you talk about that? Since you're willing to
yeah,
talk about that, could you talk about your process in terms of profit making?
yeah.
That's if you don't
So
mind.
so I have spent 1,200 mana, which doesn't necessarily equate to $1,200 because most of the purchase or most of the publishing I did was when mana was like $3.
Right.
So we're probably talking. I've published around $3,000 worth, we'll say, and I've made back. And this is one of the first times I'm putting this number very publicly out
Hmm.
there, but I've made back close to like 10 grand, 12 grand in my
Wow.
entire time here.
Wow.
And so
Mm.
that's an accumulative 4x. And
I
for
don't think.
somebody who
Yeah.
lives in the state in like the Midwest where things are really cheap, and like I don't come from money, and I don't come from
Hmm.
like high wages and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So this kind of money, especially getting it from art, is like a dream come true.
Right.
Nobody that I know ever goes into an industry and gets their art appreciated that quickly. And everybody that I know that's a creator and that actually puts a lot of work and effort and love into their collections,
Hmm.
there's not very many creators that I know that haven't made their money back plus some. Most of the people that I'm in network with have made 2 or 3x of their investments, which is just goes to show that there's a market and there's an opportunity for anybody to start.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. So the barrier to entry is really not there because of decentralization. The barrier to entry is actually quite small. So someone can start with almost nothing and then be able to build a career that a 9 to 5 job may not have gotten you. And especially as an artist, you get people
Yeah,
to accept that creative process, your expression, the way you express your own awareness of the environment around you, essentially through art, and you can turn that
yeah,
into an actual profession. I think that's amazing to hear. But
yeah,
it also speaks to the resilience, people. Don't forget, it's the resilience and knowing that you can make it if you want to achieve something, you can actually make it if you set your mind to it.
yeah,
I think that's the thing to learn today. It's been
yeah.
amazing,
And
Nikki. Yes.
I really want to drive too that like the reason I keep saying if it's possible for me, it's possible for anybody is
Yeah.
because I'm a trans person. So like I have a lot of resistance right out the gate
Hmm.
because a lot of people don't agree and don't understand and aren't educated.
Hmm.
And so coming into a space like this, especially the internet, like you're really putting yourself out there to be criticized because a lot of people are a lot meaner behind the keyboard than they are in person. And so thankfully though, I
That's
have
true.
had like almost zero resistance when it comes to
Right.
that. And so I know that like this is a space for creative people, period. Doesn't matter if you're trans, straight, whatever. Like
That,
if you're creative and you love what you do, you're going to be appreciated.
that's amazing. That's amazing to hear, and that's the thing. That's the amazing thing about crypto and decentralization is because it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, what you look like, where you come from, what your beliefs are. If and that's the thing about the internet. You can't lie to people, or else they'll always figure you out. There are too many smart people on the internet. So if you present yourself and you're presenting yourself as an honest person, as a creative person, you're presenting your skill, and that's the focus, then people just focus on that because that's how you're expressing yourself and people appreciate it. So that's
Yeah.
that's truly amazing to hear. It's truly
And that's
amazing.
awesome because the metaverse is like one of those first places where you can be that and
Mm,
you don't really have to fear
mm,
being judged or anything. And it's so crazy because every time there is that like troll,
mm.
everybody hears about it because it's so abnormal that it's just like come out of nowhere. And it's like, whoa, like we need to get rid of this because
Right.
this is not part of our community. And I love that because you can see the love that the community has for each other and wants to
Yes.
protect each other.
It
So it's
create
cool. I love it.
it creates a safe place for people to be able to, and that's how we move forward. That's how, if historically speaking, that's how society has moved forward. Is through that acceptance of things that were, for example, artists and the things they did that normal people did not see as normal. But that's how the human race actually progresses through daring to try, right? So that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And just being yourself.
just being yourself. Right. Thanks so much, Nikki. It's been
Yeah, no problem.
it's been amazing. I think we could talk for the whole time. We could talk for another extra hour if we actually stretch this, because
Absolutely.
it's a very sensitive topic, and also it's a very exciting topic, and it's a forefront. So it could go on forever. But I think for now, It's been amazing, and we're going to take that information that you've given us, which is going to be extremely useful for me and also to other people that have been looking for that inspiration. We're going to take that information, package it up, and try to see how we can leverage it for ourselves. And that's how you become successful, by providing value to other people as well. And that's what you're doing, Nikki. So thank you for that. And thank you for
No,
actually
thank you.
coming to
Thank
the
you for the
show.
opportunity. For
Yeah,
real, it really means a lot for me to get the message out there and to inspire other people. So
I
I'm
know.
always willing to talk.
Yes, that's awesome.